Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another rendition of the Just Us Review. That's right, everybody. You know, we like to review our favorite shows. They can be from the world of superheroes. They can be mysticism. It can be magic. We don't care. We just love content. And if we like it, we like it. If we hate it, you're going to hear about it. And today, I swear today, we got a good one for you. All the way from the DC app, or my favorite pirate website, we bring to you Harley Quinn. Now, Season 1, we all thought it was okay for an intro. You know, it's a good salad at the buffet. It gets you ready. And Season 2 brought a whole new van of tricks with it. Now, let's go across the room and give the overall feel how we felt about this season.
Before we start that off, I would just like to say, at this juncture, the DC app might as well be a pirated app.
There's nothing on it that you can't see anywhere.
To tell you the truth, I saw this on Spotify. So they really don't want their money at the DC app.
No. I saw it on CBS app. Right next to Star Trek.
I pulled up to a red light. This brother came to my door with the newspaper, but it's really a tablet. He was showing me how to
Excuse me, brother.
Have you seen this episode? So let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. All right, around the table, how did you feel about this season 2?
I thought it was a lot better than season 1.
Okay, what about you?
I agree.
All
but
right.
I will say this, there were a couple of issues that I had, but overall it was better than season 1.
Going around.
I liked it better than the season 1, but I felt like it fumbled in the beginning.
I like that it strayed less and less from Joker, because season 1 it was about her getting over Joker and it just like finding out who she is without Joker, and so season 2 it's like, oh, Joker's gone, who is Harley Quinn and what's she trying to do?
That's some great insight into it. Honestly, I was starting to get bored as I was watching season 2, and then it started to pick up. I was starting to question because you guys was like, hey, it's funny, and I was like, where's the haha? But then then later I moved the toilet paper and there was the nugget of truth. But you know what? It was a passable season. So you guys want to go the goods or the bad first? We're going to do the goods. All right. What was great about this season?
We just don't get a say in that. Huh?
No, you don't. What was great about this season that made it pick up from the last season?
So this season really for me picked up when it got to the Batman episode. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was weird because I actually wanted less Batman. Mm-hmm. Like I want a Harley Quinn show, and Batman can be there, but I didn't necessarily want a Batman episode. Mm-hmm. But when it got to the Batman episode is when it picked up for me.
And I'm glad you say that. Let me piggyback off that. First of all, this Batman reminded me of Lego Batman, in that he was weird, awkward, and he knew it. Oh, and also brought one of my favorite superheroes ever. Who's the guy that Alfred's alter ego?
The mustachio.
The macaroni, I think.
Yeah, it was the macaroni. Yeah, macaroni.
Yeah.
So the macaroni was like this old Englishly dude who fought crime, and honestly, I like this suit. I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was pretty badass. But you know what? That's my 2 cents. But anyway, I love that because it showed Batman as a caricature of himself, and I love the fact that also in the same instance that he was introduced, he was also pushed out in the same episode. So it kind of course corrected itself with introducing the Batman, and it also showed like. Alfred Pennyworth in a stronger light too. It's like, look, I could be out there whooping ass too, but I don't because I got to take care of you. And I love that. Oh, and Batwoman.
Yeah, Batgirl.
Batgirl.
Batgirl showed up, and to me that was the awkward part of the season because I thought that they were passing the mantle over to her,
or at least doing more.
Yeah, and she disappeared after that episode.
Yeah.
Well, no, I love that aspect of her because it was like one. She grew up independently of Batman. He wasn't in charge of her training. He wasn't in charge of her identity. She was like, I look up to you as an idol. I met you, never meet your idols. And then I'm going to go on and do what I do because it was working for me.
So I'm going to say something about the Batgirl thing. And it's not necessarily about what you just said, but I think it was awkward because they established that Robin exists. and he appears in the first episode of this season, I believe, and then he's just gone. No explanation of what happened to him or anything like that.
Right, and especially since he called Batman Dad.
Exactly.
So it's like, oh, wait, so that's your child. And
Damien.
Exactly. So, and that's the thing, that, like I said, that's not an indictment on Batgirl, period. I just thought it was odd that they're talking about, oh, the city's running wild, everybody doing crime and stuff, and the macaroni is the one defending the city, and I'm like, where's Robin?
Because he's not necessary. The macaroni is putting the pimp in down.
and plus he was like 12 years old.
Yeah. And
Well,
so,
if this was the Damien, never mind.
and let's be real, I did not miss this Robin because I hate Damian Wayne. Like,
Another aspect of the Batman episode that I thought was my favorite was I don't care how y'all felt about this character. I loved Bane. Bane was one of my stand-ups in this episode, in this season, because he brought a level of, I love the realness into him and the insight of, I'm the most imposing person, but I also have the most insight, like the actual Bane in the comic book. People always underestimate Bane because they just see him as a mercenary and a killer, but he's actually one of the smartest people in that universe. So I love how the whole interaction between him and Two-Face, and he was like, "You're on the poster right there." And Two-Face is literally a poster of Two-Face and his shadow, and then he was like, "Yeah, you're the shadow."
it's like, I think you don't get it. Yeah, I was born in the shadow, but that's not me.
So on a side point, I love the Dark Knight Rise references in this entire season. They were hilarious. But yeah, the Bane, especially when he fights Batman.
He breaks it.
And that was an indictment on all y'all fanboys that be like, Batman could do anything if he had prep time. Well, he had all the prep time, and he couldn't do shit with it.
What I loved about it was the writers knew the comics. And they were like, because they set it up for him to break his back, and then he flipped around and broke his knees. and then in his last ditch effort, the bat missile penis shoots up and hits Bane in the face. And I'm like, I'm done.
Well, my favorite part of that thing is something that was set up earlier in that whole exchange. There's this little kid walking around, and he's got a Batman doll. He doesn't even speak, but Batman sees the kid, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm back. I'm gonna take care of it. It's cool." Then he is getting the work put on him, and he looks.
Just drops. Just shakes his head.
It picks up a Tommy gun, and he's like, "I guess I'm crying now."
And one of my other favorite characters of the season was also in here, Commissioner Gordon. I love Commissioner Gordon. Commissioner Gordon is the sign of a broken man at the end of his string. And then in the beginning, he puts up the back signal, and he's like looking out the window crying like, "Where are you? Why won't you come save us?" And then, quick detour. Later on, he takes the back signal, and then some police track him down, beat his ass, and break the signal. So when he sees Batman, it was like, "Thank you for returning. Why haven't you returned my calls?" I just love that aspect of Commissioner Gordon.
So, are you gonna go with the bad?
Oh, we'll see.
We'll save it for later. What I was going to say is, I liked Gordon a little better in this season than last season because I feel like last season he was just there to do the same joke of, "I'm pathetic. I can't get laid by my wife. She's gonna leave me. Blah blah blah."
Batman's my best friend, and he doesn't even like me.
Exactly. And it's like we get it. Let's move on with it. This time around, they actually gave him a story arc, and like he did things, and like
He's trying to get better for his daughter.
Exactly.
So, I'm gonna go ahead and break this down for you. I know why you like Commissioner Gordon, and you don't even know why.
We'll wait till we get there.
No, we're here.
Okay. Why do I like Commissioner Gordon?
Who plays his voice?
I have no idea.
Detective Stabler.
That's what. Y'all don't know. Detective Stabler is my hero. He just be a chick rapist. He's like, but Detective Stabler is the Batman of the Law and Order universe. He just descends from the sky. You don't smell like consent. But let's get back to Harley Quinn.
Yeah, so Commissioner Gordon would stand out for me as well. I like that they build his character back up. To me, when Two-Face came and took over the police station, that was a funny episode to me as well, even though it was kind of sad. Because he was just like, just shoot him. And Gordon was like, I ain't going out like no punk. And he just started spraying, running out the door. I was like, I didn't know he could do that.
No.
And then tangentially, another weird character that I liked was Cheryl.
Yeah.
It was like they took a character from King of the Hill and put it.
Now remind me, Cheryl.
Cheryl was the red-haired police officer.
Oh,
And that eventually goes into Bane's prison.
yes.
And every time Commissioner Gordon talked about it, he's like, all right, we're going to send a contingent of 5 men and 1 woman.
I'm Cheryl.
That brings up one of my favorite moments in the whole series. So Commissioner Gordon brings all of them donuts. He's like, I thank you guys for coming here and eating my vegan donut.
So what tripped me out about Cheryl, this was the icing on the cake for me, why I like this character. She had the audacity to get her job back after all this was over. And like, they just was like, okay.
It's not like you did just kneecap. She didn't kneecap Commissioner Gordon and then broke the back sin level. So, other favorite parts of the series?
My other favorite part was the development with Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. I did like that. Mm-hmm. I liked how they tried. Well, Ivy was trying to resist her because she does know that Kite Man is the safe option.
I'm not gonna let y'all disrespect Kite Man. But keep going.
And that Kite Man is the safe option, and her trying to guard her heart against Harley because she does know that she's a lot self-destructive, and she's messy, and so she's trying to make her life less messy.
I think one of the lines that was said in regards to that really hit home, and for me was really a criticism about the Harley character in this show, when Ivy was like, I trust you with my life, but I don't trust you with my heart. And I was like, and when I heard that, I was like, wow, that is like a commentary on this character in the entire show, because season 1, I felt like she was the weakest link, but it was for specific reasons. And this season, she's a lot better, but I still feel like she was one of the lower points of the season, but for other different reasons that we'll get into when we get to the bad.
I'll say this much. One of my favorite portrayals of this entire season was Poison Ivy. Honestly, I think the show should have revolved around her, because she has the most. Her interaction with people is more dynamic. The way she talks with people and engage with them, like her, and it's different. Like her back and forth with Catwoman, as opposed to Harley and other people. She has different dynamics with everybody. And I thought it would have been more interesting to follow follow Poison Ivy, than it is to follow Harley, and that we'll get to that later, because she's of the maturity level of it. And I think it's I'd rather watch a grown-up go through the things of, who am I as far as my identity as a villain, as far as my identity as my sexuality, as who I want to be in the future, than the tantrum that is Harley Quinn. And I think Ivy developed more than anyone over this season.
So I'm gonna say this about your comment about the show having the show follow Ivy. I don't think it works if you remove Harley.
No, you don't remove her.
because those two literally work off of each other. I believe that's the because Harley and Joker, no. I'm doing the Drake meme. Harley and Joker, no. Harley and Ivy, yeah. that works a lot better for me. I will say this in defense of Harley, she did develop as a character. There are problems with that development, but again, that's for later on in the video.
I do like that they did push Harley from Joker, to having Joker lose his memories and everything. The suburban dad character, it was okay. I didn't necessarily. The show had to progress, and so they had to keep throwing him back into her life. So I like that she kept rejecting him, knowing who he was, and also actively trying to not let him remember who he was. Mm-hmm. But at the same time,
like we didn't need to have that. We didn't need to have Joker come back. Period.
Yeah. But if you're gonna throw him in, I do like what they did with his character after he turned back. He was still the psychotic Joker and everything. I didn't really like the self-referential. I'll do this because I'm the Joker.
Yeah,
I didn't like that. But
that shit got old in season 1.
But he has some humanity about him because he lived a normal suburban life, and I'm curious to see where that goes.
Another great that I have for the episode is, so the Justice League get trapped inside the Fables book, and then they eventually come out and they are horrified. And I would love that scene because it was finally some get back for the Queen of Fables, because I was like, yep, you guys. And then somebody alluded to this last time, especially that Wonder Woman. You took a person and just shoved them into the book as if that was justice. And they finally got a taste of their own medicine. And I think the Flash was one of the ones who was the most shook by that experience, because he was like, I don't know what that was. And another breakout character was the Riddler. I thought he was hilarious. Where he finally got toned up, he's like, I'm so fine, I can't even make riddles no more.
So the Riddler has personally always been my favorite Bat villain, and it really irks me that whenever they do Batman media, they either play him up as another Joker because they don't want to take the time to use their brains and come up with riddles for Batman to solve, or they play him as a background character that gets pushed to the side. So I thought that what they did with him this season was a lot better. It was probably one of the best interpretations they've done in media since Batman the Animated Series, in my opinion.
Case in point, like when Dr. Psycho tries to possess him, he was like, I'm an A-class villain. Get out of here. Mm-hmm. You can't possess me.
Speaking of Dr. Psycho.
Are we going into the bath now?
Not yet.
I'm gonna say I like aspects of Dr. Psycho because he was like, I want to be the villain since nobody seems to want to be a villain in this show. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna take up that mantle. Mm-hmm. So I like that he was a formidable antagonist.
Mm-hmm. They also mentioned how earlier on in the season when Harley got trapped in the ice and Dr. Psycho tried to take over and he failed miserably, and it was just we're just kind of seeing that how bad Dr. Psycho is leading a team. Exactly. And how it's never gonna work out for him.
But when they went to Bane Town, I think it was him and King Shark. Was that Clayface and King Shark?
It was him and King Shark.
Yeah, I wanted to see what that adventure was. Seemed like they had fun. They completed their mission. It happened off screen, but he seemed competent in that.
But he was still running someone else's errand because they just went to get a generator for the mall.
Yeah. So I'll say this in regards to Dr. Psycho. I think the show does a good job of calling out the fact that you don't belong in this dynamic. Because whether you realize it or not, they're not trying to be a band of world-conquering villains. They just want respect.
They just fucking around.
That too, they just want to be a group of friends that hang out together and do things. Like Dr. Psycho was never going to fit in that group. And honestly, I think it was for the better.
One of my favorite villains was Darkseid. I thought Darkseid was hilarious. One of the instances of that is when Dr. Psycho pops up. He's like, "Ah, yes, I remember you. You're the one who called Wonder Woman that name, that word. I won't even." I was like, okay, cool. And then, like, Darkseid was snarky, and he was so above it all. And I just thought it was an amazing rendition of him. I love the fact that they were able to introduce him without taking over completely. Which I thought was some incredible restraint on their part. And he was able to lead to the story without being the focal point. So, although that granny goodness, we're going to get to the granny goodness part later. But that granny goodness thing was a little, but thought it was a great introduction.
So this is going to sound weird, but Darkseid portrayal to me really solidified that this show is a little bit like Teen Titans Go.
Yeah.
Before adults.
Huh? Before adults.
But who said Teen Titans Go was never for adults?
There's some
Cartoon
references.
Harley Quinn not gonna air at 9 o'clock in the morning.
But let's be honest with you, like some of the stuff you see on Teen Titans Go, some of the references, like you're not gonna get it unless you over 30. Yeah, over 30. Yeah.
Yeah, like Darkseid's character almost reminded me of a not so fluffy Trigon from Teen Titans Go. Like, yeah, he's evil, but he's still like I still have a regular day about me.
Exactly. So one of the things I liked, and I'm surprised we haven't jumped on this character yet. King Shark was in rare form this season too, and I particularly liked his. Damn. Fuck.
Well, why did you like King Shark?
I particularly like the subplot because when they talk about the wedding and he's like, well, I guess I can bring my homegirl Tabitha. I'm supposed to be married to her. We'll see how that goes. And I was like, are they gonna reference that again? And so we got that whole story. But the reason why I liked it is because in that episode where we got that story, their rendition of Under the Sea. I did think that was funny.
It's like, you can poop where you live.
This is awesome, right?
And then when he met up with his dad, he was like, and I use a toilet.
Yeah, we're going to get a King Shark later. Go ahead.
What I liked about that whole storyline is when he's on the boat with his friends and Kite Man.
Damn.
They're all talking about, well, you shouldn't have to marry someone you don't love. You don't have to put up with this. And then so he makes that big old speech to his dad saying, no, I'm not going to do this and you're not going to make me. And if that means I never have to come back here, oh well. And then he comes back in 5 minutes later and does exactly what his dad wants. And then he's like, oh yeah, I did it.
Oh, we got you.
I'm surprised nobody said this, but I love the character of Mr. Freeze. I thought Mr. Freeze. Yeah, Mr. Freeze, because he completely circumvented all of Harley Quinn's ideas of what the main villains were about. We finally got to know the insides of him. I mean, even though it was a brief episode, but it was like everything she thought about him was completely wrong. She didn't understand what the concept of love was, and she had to learn it through Mr. Freeze. I thought that was a great teachable moment.
But that also goes back to the fact that one of Harley's flaws is that she just does stuff and doesn't really think things through until it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
It also proves that, she didn't grow up knowing what love was supposed to look like. And so when she actually sees what it's supposed to be, she gets suspicious of it and thinks the worst and ends up killing Mr. Freeze.
Hold on, wait a second. We're not in the bad part yet.
Oh,
This is all good. What are you talking about?
I would even say she purposely sabotages it for other people.
Yeah.
We're not in the bad part yet.
Subconsciously, I would say, maybe not intentionally, but she, yes.
So, Catwoman was a character.
Indeed, she was.
I don't know. So the first episode she came in when they did the diamond heist or whatever. I loved
The
it.
Cop Squad. You didn't like the Cop
Wait,
Squad?
we getting there. We getting there. I loved it because it was sprinkling Catwoman in. Like, I'm in, I'm out, I'm in, I'm out. All right, bye. And you could tell Poison Ivy just had a whole like crush on her the entire time. And then when she came back for the bachelorette party, which is my favorite episode, by the way. I don't know if she really, like, yeah, she was there to call Harley out on her bull or whatever, but, like, I don't know. I felt like she kind of just,
She was there for a free trip.
It felt like Catwoman, again, like, there's a role. Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, and all their crew is on this level. Then you have those characters who are above it. Like, you got Darkseid, the Justice League, and everybody else, they're above it. And it's like, hey, we're coming down to your level to say hi. Okay. That's what it felt like Catwoman was. She's like, I'm A tier. I don't want to hang out with you guys, but I'm doing this because I got 5 minutes.
Gotcha.
But yeah. I got a different take on that. Take some of what you said, but my thing is, I'm coming down here because no one else hangs out with me in A tier.
Okay, great.
And you guys will hang out with me.
Right, because of her, like, bougie, holier-than-thou attitude, no one really wants to hang out with her, and so that's why she goes to people like Ivy, who have a crush on her, and, like, let her steal her jacket just because, gets a tattoo of one lunch that you guys had together just because it was cool, and then she disappears again.
I'm surprised nobody has said this, but one of my favorite, I've never even heard of this character before. I think he just was made up for this show. But the villain that he had to go through with the Trap Master.
Dr. Trap?
Dr. Trap. Is he real?
I think he's made up.
That sounds so dumb.
But this was a boss episode. Like, everywhere they got cornered. And I was like, this dude is brilliant. He's on a little calculator level stuff.
There are DC characters where it's like, I don't know if you're made up or not.
Because, like, the trickster, the prankster, all of those are real characters.
And at the end,
and one of them fights Superman on purpose.
One of the last episode, I think it was the last episode, when they freed Gotham and they giving everybody keys to the city. They giving all the superheroes keys to the city, and it's like Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Space Cabbie. And then Space Cabbie, it was someone else, and then there was a dude, and I didn't know who he was. And then
he was in red, what?
Yeah, the dude in red, and I'm gonna tell you why it's funny in a minute. And so then at the same time, me and Jim Gordon is like, who the fuck are these guys? But the reason the dude in red was hilarious to me is because later he is at the wedding with the villain. He's just chilling.
And at the key ceremony, the mayor gives everybody a key except Jim Gordon, who helped clear the city out. And then he says his final key is from me as the mayor. Jim Gordon was about to dig in his ass.
It's like, I've never even seen this guy.
And the whole news reporter was like, wait, Gotham has a man?
So there were some standouts on this episode. Wait, are we done with goods?
So good.
Oh, the
plan.
penis flytrap.
I love him.
Frank.
Yeah.
Frank didn't do nothing. All he did was fucking play.
Funny. I'm gonna tell you why he was funny.
He is fucking hilarious.
He had two parts to me that tripped me out. The first part were at the beginning of the episode, it was him and that dude, and they were about to watch Harley Quinn, and he was giving a recap of everything, and he was like, Darkseid, Darkseid, I don't know how to fucking pronounce that shit. And then in the last episode, he tried to fuck that plan.
And so he gets knocked out, locked in the van, and we literally see they drive past the van, and he's literally in the van. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, it's pollen season.
So yeah, the Themyscira episode was boss to me. Like, they just created characters. They created a friend for Ivy, who apparently was a boss level character. Like, I had to look up to see like who played this person. Was this character real?
Who played her?
I'll tell you guys off screen because it's really like an inside joke, I think.
Okay.
But like, damn, she puts in work for just a regular person.
I forgot her name. What was her name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer.
She was throwing hands.
Especially when she found out that the mimosas weren't bottomless. Like, we're gonna kill all of them.
Side note: Noah Freeze turned into a true thought after Mr. Freeze died.
Let women grieve how they grieve, okay?
Exactly.
Taking all
She wanna do whole shit every day.
She was taking-
She do whole shit every day.
She went to the mascara and took all the dill. Although there were some good things that happened on in the season 2, of course there were some things that the season just limped on about. There were some standout bad things that they need to eventually improve. And I want to start us off with Harley Quinn herself. I think that it's the whole petulant child thing, especially with her age, it doesn't work. That's why I was like, I really wish they would have switched it and had Poison Ivy be the face and Harley Quinn be the sidekick. Like she's Fred and Harley Quinn is her
Like maybe will you
Barney.
rename the show
Barney.
Harley and Ivy?
Huh?
Rename the show Harley and Ivy.
Yeah, well, yeah, Harley and Ivy. That's what should have been the name of the show.
No, that wasn't gonna work because, as they like to remind us over at DC, Harley Quinn is one of the 4 pillars of the DC universe.
It's pretty prevalent in the show that Ivy she wants to live like a quiet, comfortable life and just like kill people who are hurting the ecosystem. But she doesn't want the life that Harley wants, which is the fame and her face on a highway. Ivy doesn't want that. She literally wants to be at home with her plants.
Because she's mature about it, but then you have all these shenanigans and hijinks from Pearl Man from the 5th floor who keep bothering you. Like Harley is always around, pretty much interrupting her environment, and that could have been the show. Because watching Harley Quinn interact throughout life, it's like it's getting painful at some points. Like the word plot armor comes into point a lot of times because it's like. The only reason why you're in most of these situations is because they're gonna write you out ridiculous. And you know what? That's not bad all the time, but sometimes it just gets annoying.
So I'm gonna defend her a little bit. I think a lot of the times that we see that happen with her is because of her personality, and then it's just other times where the writers of this show just force these situations. For example, we don't need to see Joker. At all in
I was just gonna say that. I think one of the biggest problems with and I say a Harley Quinn show, and I was trying to see if they were gonna avoid this, is I think that DC themselves can only tell one Harley Quinn story, and it's Harley Quinn gets abused by the Joker and has to get over it. And so when season 2 comes about, I'm like, okay, you killed the Joker off last season. We can have a season free of Joker, and we can see how Harley can do independently. And then literally when we were getting to that point, they introduced Joker back.
Here comes that crutch.
But what I think they were trying to do with that is showing her development, because last season, every time the Joker would literally just bat his eyes at her, she'd run and jump into his arms. And so they showed it this season where she's no longer in that headspace at all.
Actually, she kind of was, because as soon as she recognized the Joker, it all became around me proving that that's the Joker and me interrupting his life. Why couldn't she just leave that alone?
Because it's ingrained in her personality. Let me finish. It's ingrained in her personality that it's not just the Joker. Because if you saw the beginning of the season, she literally laid out, Gotham was taken over by these 5 villains, and they pretty much told me to fuck off, and I have to prove to them that I'm on their level, if not better. She's always trying to prove herself, and to be fair, like that's a thing that women and minorities go through every day. So that's why when they came up on Mr. Freeze and he was like, I literally froze you in that block of ice because they wanted to kill you. They are all white cis males that don't regard your life. Like, I have a fucking accent. I'm one of you. Like, I literally saved your fucking life. like he, like it speaks to society and how she was treated by a white male.
But my whole thing about that is Poison Ivy pretty much had to put everything that she wanted aside to pretty much keep covering for her. And it was like, because of Harley, who you are as Harley Quinn, and some privilege that comes with that, I gotta keep my stuff to the side. And not only to the latter episode where did Harley recognize that and try to redeem herself within 1 or 2 episodes. We've been seeing this from season 1 all the way up to damn near episode 7, where Poison Ivy was like, let me put myself out of pocket to try to save you, help you any way I can.
Well, but that speaks to the fact that, like he said, DC only knows how to tell one story with Harley Quinn, and that's I was abused by the Joker and I need to get over it.
And here's another thing about what you're saying too. That's such a common trope in, to be honest with you, a lot of, how can I say this, white male-centered media. You have that character that he's the main character, but he disrupts the life of everybody around him. And it's like, well, that's okay because you're, and then insert main character's name. So I understand where you're coming from because it's kind of tropish at this point. The only thing that makes it different is Harley is a woman. That's the only thing.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, we're hoping that her character doesn't stay that way. Like, we see that she's growing as a person. We get that. So is it going to stick?
So it's funny that you say that because here's the next thing that I don't know if this is necessarily a bad thing, but it's something that I wonder about for the foreseeable future of the show. What are they gonna do next? Because when they ran off together, are they coming back to Gotham? Because I know where they could go and what they could do next if we're going off the comics, but you set up for 2 seasons, you set up an entire cast of characters that have, for all intents and purposes, become beloved. And are you going to ditch all that? And if you do ditch all that, will this progress, particularly Harley's story?
Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, I think they're going to keep her in Gotham, even if she goes away for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Always going to come back. Mm-hmm. Come back to Gotham.
So I have one other thing that I felt was a bad. One of the weak points about this show, because it was the same thing in last season, their jokes are 50-50. And I think sometimes they just say stuff to try to get a reaction or to fill time. I'll give you an example of a joke that I was just like, I don't even know where that would come from and why that would, like, I don't know what this means. When they go to fight Mr. Freeze and he comes out and they're like, oh, that's Beyonce. No, that's Lady Gaga. And I was like, I don't get it. You were just saying things.
We got the HPV joke again too.
Yeah, we got it. I'm like, what if you're
and then they said it twice within a span of a minute, and I'm like, that joke didn't last. That joke didn't land last season. Stop trying to make that happen.
And when she said it the second time in that episode, she was like, yeah, I know. I just wanted to make sure I said it again. And I'm like, what is your obsession with this disease? I don't get it. Like, it's just. And look, I'm not.
They did that.
I'm not saying, like every show that's supposed to be a comedy, they're gonna have jokes that don't land. Mm-hmm. But to me, this was 50-50. It was like sometimes I felt like they were just saying things to say things. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, they had some of the funniest shit in this season that I've seen in a long time.
And we seen it, and I think it was sprinkled in the first season, but definitely more this season. Mm-hmm. It's the situations that are funny.
Exactly.
And you can do little quippy dialogue here and there around those situations.
Like the kid that was the Batman fan, we didn't need dialogue for that joke. It was literally, I'm a fan, my hero is here. Oh, he getting worked? There's no hope.
Like, Batman is trying to prove to Alfred that he can even just get up and go, like, get something from across the room, and Alfred just bitching him out the whole time.
Like, put your socks on.
Any bads?
One thing that I didn't like that they abandoned from season 1 with King Shark is the fact that he doesn't like blood. and that was like the whole
Yeah,
thing.
that went out the window.
Mhm.
That was like the whole thing that was, he's like, oh, I don't like blood, I don't like biting people. And this season he was just like literally just biting everyone.
Yeah,
lunchtime.
Like, they relied too heavily on that
Yeah,
with him.
speaking of King Shark, I didn't like his character.
Whew. Thank you.
Like, it's almost like he didn't have anything to do.
And to piggyback off that, go ahead.
Because in the first season, they brought him in to be like the IT tech guy or whatever, and that wasn't necessary this season. And so it was like, I'm here.
So here's my thing about that. I kind of felt like none of those characters had anything to do. Like Clayface has never he's never been significant. He was funny. He was funny on the college episode, and that was the closest he ever got to being entertaining.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
I can't stand
And sorry to cut everyone, but
No.
the last episode when he just grows,
Yeah.
and Holly's like, wait, you could have been doing this the entire time, and you wanted to be active.
and they set up this whole joke about, which goes into the joke thing again. This whole joke about him wanting to sing in front of Tim Burton, and I'm like, and it wasn't even him. Hey, be like, this joke is not gonna land. Stop reminding us of it.
So that wasn't Tim Burton?
No.
No, it wasn't.
No, it was not.
He was with
Catwoman
Selena Kyle, and she
called
literally
him a
calls him by a different name.
Yeah, I
She's
didn't
like,
recognize
he's
the name.
creeping me out. Let's go.
And that's the thing, like, so when they try to do the celebrity jokes, as it were, like, I think the only one that's ever landed was the George Lopez one. The Frankie Muniz one was just out of fucking nowhere in season 1. The Tim Burton one was like, what are you doing? We get it. He directed a couple of Batman movies.
And that's why I'm glad you guys brought that up. It was Cyborgman, Clayman, and King Shark were all throwaway this season.
Dr. Psycho too.
Yeah, pretty much.
But he was the only one, in a meta kind of way, he was the only one that was like, we don't do anything.
Yeah, like
I'm gonna do something.
But here's the thing. I don't want to hear you bitch about it for 8 episodes.
Exactly. Like, honestly, I believe it was just banter set up between him and the Riddler to sit there and bitch him out and say, you're really not anywhere near my level.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that was the only time he was entertaining because Riddler got his shit.
Like, when the Riddler pulled that whole thing, and he was like, yeah, I got out of the cage. I was just fucking around. I'm here because I get fed and I get to work out. You guys are the real assholes. And I was like, for Dr. Psycho to be one of the smartest people and for him to actually have powers to be put into place by the hide and seek game, that shit was clever. Mm-hmm. So I thought just to show him the error of his ways, that was needed. But the rest of the characters, they brought nothing to the table. It could have honestly been Harley and Mr. Freeze Castle with nobody else. It could have been like the rest of the cast was just filler.
And don't get me wrong, like King Shark and the plant, which I like the plant. And look, you can turn your head off all you want.
He's fun.
But JB Smoove is a comedic genius at times.
We see you, Spider-Man, Far From Home.
Exactly.
But let's be real, like, they said a line or two that was hilarious or whatever, but like, other than that, they literally was just the guys that stand behind Harley and sometimes Ivy.
I didn't like that. I thought they were going to go on this trend of, her like, all right, it's me against the 5 bosses of Gotham City. And they killed off Penguin. I was like, wait, we just killing off main villains now? Like, that's what we're about to do?
Well,
like, because I think Penguin's the only one she successfully killed. I guess Mr. Freeze too, whatever.
That was an accident. and then I was about to call him Bullock. Gordon took down Two-Face.
Didn't kill him though, but
and thank you for reminding me.
Oh yeah.
The last episode was a bad for me, ironically.
Really?
Yeah. Because it regressed the whole Gordon thing. I liked other stuff around it, the stuff we mentioned, but like, first of all, like, Two-Face, you're done. we don't need you anymore. Like, they set this whole thing up where Gordon's gonna run for mayor or something like that, and Two-Face was gonna be his campaign manager. I'm like, where are we going? And we just dropped it once they got to the wedding. And I'm like, well, you never should have brought it up.
Well, it was all hinging on him being successful with capturing all the villains at the wedding, which they were unsuccessful. So we don't have to worry about that, I guess. But I mean, I liked it from the standpoint that it gave Gordon one last thing to do. Like, he tried to go out like a boss in the end of the first season, so he tried to do it again at the end of this season. Mm-hmm. He didn't have a tank. But
he had a batman.
He had a bazooka.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he had to ride passenger in the bad plane.
This was another good thing for me when he had everyone and all the news media outlets gather all at Ivy's wedding to see him take them down, and they were just like, "Whoa, Gordon's done absolutely nothing."
Another side good that I want to bring in was the Pit. I thought the Pit with Bane was a brilliant piece to the episode because, like I said, we always focus on the brutality of Bane. But to see that he actually had a facility and all this chaos that was actually working, that was actually meeting the needs of the criminals and making them better. Because we talked about this before, that if Batman, if he wanted to help, there's things he can do in the community. It was surprising that Bane, with all that we know about him on the surface level, was actually allowing these people to explore the darknesses within them, thus making them better. Like, my favorite part is when they're trying to start the riot, and everybody was like, I don't know what you're doing. We're all in tune to who we are. We've already worked these demons out. Even Zaz was like, before he freaked out, he was like, I'm already at peace of what I've done and all this X, Y, and Z. And all these criminals were atoning for what they were doing because they had no place to go but the Pit. And I thought that was an incredible portrayal of Bane and that situation, that we had to go through all this trash. Gotham had to fall. The PD had to fall for these villains to actually get the care that they needed. And he's not even a doctor. Which shows you that the institutionalized form of medicine was not working.
Exactly.
And then Zaz went, you get a shake.
You
get a shake.
Now that brawl later when they fall.
But I think that's kind of what irks me about Bane's portrayal. I just think it's weird that we decided to go back to the Dark Knight Rises for his portrayal. And to me, it felt, in season 1, it felt lazy, because it was like, oh, we're doing this. We're throwing away his Latino ethnicity, and we're doing this shit. But when you do the jokes like the Pit, and when you do the stuff like I was born in the shadows, but I'm not the shadow, then you make it worth it. It's just like we had to wait until season 2 for it to pay off.
I did not like Batgirl. I wanted to, but I didn't.
I just thought she was a waste.
I liked her introduction on the college campus, that she was kind of following them around, and they thought that she was someone they had to worry about, and she actually ended up helping them. But after that, there was nothing really much for her to do.
I just honestly thought she was a waste, and like, why did you put this character in there?
Also, she was voiced by Kaylee Cuoco's sister.
That's why.
I saw that she was, well, for me, she was trying to help. She added to Gordon's story. Like, she gave him motivation to, stop killing yourself slowly.
That's a good Barbara Gordon story.
Yeah.
Why did it need to be a Batgirl?
I know, but like, he wouldn't listen to his daughter when she was just his daughter. He didn't start listening to her until she showed herself to him as Batgirl.
That's fair.
And he completely did not respect Batgirl at all until
Like, he kept calling her a broad, and I'm like,
when Gordon came out of the shower, he's going to get my shower beer.
A TikTok,
And the TikTok thing, can we do it together?
Would that be weird?
And I'm just I'm like, so this is where we're going with this character. Like, that's as low as you can get as far as I'm concerned, drinking beer in the shower.
I don't know. Getting beat up next to the bat projector thing, that's a little worse by your own crew. The police department got fired that day, and then they changed out their captain and beat his ass.
And this isn't necessarily bad to me. I just thought this was weird. This is going back to the joke thing. I just thought this was the most random ass weirdest joke ever. When we get the flashback and and Harley goes to Arkham and Gordon and Two-Face, before he becomes Two-Face, they're in someone's office doing push-ups with no shirts on. And it's like, first of all, I have so many questions. Neither one of them have why does Harvey Dent have an office at Arkham? He's not a doctor. And being a DA doesn't correlate with psychology in Arkham. That didn't make sense to me. Why were y'all doing push-ups?
Why did y'all not have shirts on?
The only reason they didn't put shirts on them is because we needed to know Gordon used to be buff.
And also the things that I think in that the joke in that same episode with the red vines when Gordon keeps asking, "Oh, do you have any more of those?" He's like, "This is the last one." And he's like offering Batman. And he's like, "I thought you didn't have any more."
I didn't care for that Joker backstory. I do. Actually, was it a Joker backstory and a Harley Harley and Ivy backstory was what that was.
It was a Joker backstory that they do all the time.
It's what we call filler.
The Joker backstory that he told Harley was Ivy's backstory. And so everything that she thought she knew about Joker at that time was actually what she knew about Ivy.
Yeah.
I almost said Ivy.
But this doing shit names.
This also goes to Harley's character too, because I know that they were trying to find out where the Justice League was, but the Joker was off in his own world doing his own thing, and you went out of your way to turn him back into the Joker, and I was like, there were no alternatives to this. But she was like, I gotta ruin whatever happiness that he believed that he had in that moment. And then she even got jealous when he was like, you know what, I actually had feelings for old girl in that short time with just being with her kids.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing about that is, if she had left Joker alone, he would have left her alone. Because who's to say he's not going to pop up because Joker's one of those characters, and that's what I find is ironic about Harley Quinn. Going back to the Dark Knight movie, when Joker says, I'm like a dog with a bone, I wouldn't know what I'd do if I could catch it. Like, I just do. Harley is exactly that in this show. Because a lot of times episodes just open up and they're doing shit. Like, we didn't get any backstory to the shit they about to do. They just in the middle of doing shit. And who's to say Joker isn't going to just up and decide, well, this sucks, I'm going to go fuck with Harley.
That's probably what's going to happen season 3.
I got several ideas for season 3.
I'm thinking the Darkseid's gonna come back because he vowed that he was gonna come after Harley because she didn't want to enslave the human race.
Mm-hmm. That's a possibility. I also think if they go off the comics, they may move to, I think it's Detroit or New York, and they may do what they did in the comics, get an apartment and have the apartment be filled with various people. And one of the other big tenets of Harley lately is she's in a roller derby. They may do that shit.
What is that about?
I don't know. It's a storyline in her comic, and it's one of the reasons why they turned her from wearing that full bodysuit to having the short shorts and stuff like that, because she wears that as her roller derby outfit. If we don't see that in season 3, then they just doing whatever the fuck they want.
What I would love to see in season 3 is, first of all, the core team get back to what made them funny to begin with. They're having their adventures. I don't care what city that they're in. what I would love to see is that, for example, instead of taking the anti-hero route, they can do what they do in the comic books. And Harley tries to join the Justice League. She tries to become a villain. Now we see her try to become a hero and try to bring the rest of the crew aboard to see how they like to the other side of the aisle.
Give her someone new to be an antagonist too.
Exactly.
And
I'll say this though, what I think would be interesting for them to do if they have Harley and Ivy over there doing the roller derby stuff, King Shark and them should become underlings of Bane.
Okay.
I think that the Harley and Ivy relationship is gonna fall off because, of course, and I think it's gonna have something to do with, like we already said, Ivy wants to have a quiet life, and Harley just can't leave well enough alone.
do y'all think
And hijinks are gonna ensue, and they're not gonna last together.
Do y'all think Kite Man could come back in the third season?
I think he'll be back.
Yeah. I think he's gonna be back and he's gonna be better. Maybe he'll have a bigger kite.
Paper
More
plane.
kites.
I'm done with Kite Man. I'm now
What?
Chinese.
They may
literature.
pull some shit where Kite Man actually succeeds and
Level
take
up.
over Gotham.
Bosses up.
They come back and they like, what happened to Gotham? And he's like, I took this shit on.
I
It's
know.
like, you must be working with somebody.
It was all me.
I know this is too soon, but do you think Punchline?
No,
Too soon.
I don't want. No,
I don't want it either. But do you
Like-
think they would stoop that low to bring in Punchline?
they better fucking not.
Okay.
Like that character is everything wrong with DC Comics right now. Story for another.
For those who don't know, Punchline is Joker's new
Punching bag.
female assistant.
Actually, no. We can talk about it off camera. I'm gonna tell y'all what Punchline really is, and you're right. She is the reason that she is an epitome of what's wrong with DC Comics, and at the same time, she's not even really.
And we also got to remember, DC streaming app is not going to be lasting.
Yeah, exactly.
So where is that going to fall as far as how they're going to produce their content now?
I'd say sci-fi, but sci-fi
Can-
doesn't have the budget for that.
Can they still do the cursing and violence?
So
and
I
all
think
that?
I know where it could land, and we're about to go off into a little bit of a tangent, but give me the room for this. You guys know that, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but Comedy Central is rebooting.
Yeah.
And they're like the guy that was like in charge of MTV for a few years. He's in charge of Comedy Central now, and they're bringing in a whole new stuff. Comedy Central about to look like MTV was in the '90s. You getting Beavis and Butthead. You getting a new Daria spinoff. They leaning hard on South Park. They bringing some other MTV related stuff.
Clone High coming back.
Yep. So that could be the place Harley Quinn could land.
It could be, but they have HBO Max too. They may just put it over there
I
because
forgot about
there's-
that.
HBO Max is doing animation too, and right now it's just Looney Tunes. But they are going into more adult fare because there's a franchise that's getting a cartoon. I can't remember the franchise, and it's supposed to be a little bit more adult than it normally would be.
Swinging back, I would love for them to introduce Swamp Thing as a opposite to Harley Quinn.
That's a weird opposite.
Well, with her in the green and the nature whole thing, that would have been a nice coupling right there. And
Flintstones?
Oh, you mean Ivy?
yeah, Ivy, and Ivy and Swamp Thing. That would have been a nice introduction. And of course, there's another slew of characters from Justice League Dark that you can introduce too. So just as long as they keep expanding the universe, I mean, Gotham is getting kind of old, and there's plenty of other places that you can go. And to the point where Gotham wasn't even part of the United States after a while, for a while. But, like I said, just keep it fresh, keep it inventive, and don't forget the things that made us like this thing in the first place. Because I think they're starting to lose that. But
If I'm being super realistic, I think it's done. Because like I said, the DC app ain't gonna be around this time next year. They killing that shit. It's not. They killing it.
What?
And I think that I think as far as their cartoons are gonna go, they're gonna let those go. I don't think they're gonna get a new season of Young Justice, which is fine because it went out on a wet fart. And I don't think they're gonna give this another season. They may mess with their live action shows, but I don't think they're gonna do anything with Harley. So if it ends, it ends.
But like we said, we've given you guys the highs, we've guys given you the lows. Now it's time for you guys to figure it out for yourself. What were some of the best things that you liked about this season? What were some of the worst things about this season? That goddamn plan. But you know what? It's for you. It's for you to decide for yourself how boring Frank was. Now, like and subscribe. You know, you guys, you can just make suggestions at the bottom because you know we're hungry for content and there's plenty of stuff for you guys to watch out there. But until next time, fuck you, Frank.
Oh my God.